Hey guys, welcome back to another video. If you're new to my channel, hi, my name is Miranda and I talk about anything and everything related to the trucking industry and how to navigate it. So if this is a topic that interests you, feel free to subscribe down below. So today is going to be a little bit of a different video. We're going to look at the market, but from the standpoint of different trailers. So why am I doing this video? Well, because we as a company are looking to add a flatbed potentially to our fleet, and because I get a ton of questions about what kind of trailer should you buy to be able to make as much money as possible in the current market. Now, without proper research, buying a trailer right now is kind of like a gamble because of the unpredictability of the market. You might buy a trailer and then next month it might become obsolete. So today I'm going to take a deep dive into examining the three main types of trailers, dry van, flatbed, and reefer, to see which one makes the most sense for the current market. Ready? Let's go! Well, as of right now, things are pretty clear. Flatbeds are earning the most money, reefers are somewhere in the middle, and dry vans are earning pennies. So to make this as useful to you guys and to myself as possible, we're going to look at each trailer and break it down into four categories. Number one, price of equipment. Number two, the pros and cons of each trailer. Number three, current data as of 2022. And number four, historical trends. Now, of course, we're going to be spending most of this video next to the board. Haven't you guys realized already that I'm a total nerd who loves numbers? So the first thing I want to show you is this chart I made. I went to Truck Paper today and I looked at the different equipment types, new versus used, and I made averages. So the first thing we're looking at is price of equipment. So just so you know, the green lines are the new 2023 equipment. The orange lines are used equipment up to 5 years old, so from 2017 to 2022. So let's look at what I observed. For a new dry van, the average price of equipment right here is around $58,419, with a high of $75,500 on Truck Paper, and a low, the cheapest new dry van was $48,500. Now for a used dry van, which is 5 years old or newer, the average price was $46,284 with a high of $77,900, which is crazy, and a low of $22,500. So that's for the dry van. Next, for the reefer, look at this difference. So for a new reefer right here, the average price of a new reefer is $123,726. The most expensive one I found was $144,000. The least expensive one was $99,000. We bought our new reefer in 2020 for $75,000, just so you know. Now for a used reefer right here, the average price is $79,469 with a high of $112,000 and a low of $44,000. So quite a bit more expensive than the dry van. Now let's look at the flatbed, which is right here. The average price of a new 2023 flatbed is $72,514. The high was $85,000, the low was $58,500. The used flatbeds go for an average of $46,669 with a high of $81,000 and a low of $40,000. So just from looking at this, you can see that dry vans are the cheapest equipment, flatbeds are second cheapest, and the most expensive is the reefer, which is astronomically expensive. So from this, I think I would go for either a dry van or a flatbed. Reefer, it's just not worth it. As I said, we purchased a completely brand new reefer in 2020 for around $75K. So the fact that right now they're going for up to $144,000 is insane. The next thing I want to do is look at the pros and cons just really quickly. We have dry van, reefer, and flatbed. So the first thing is load securement. Of course, for a dry and reefer, it's minimal driver work. All they have to do is put the load bars on. For a flatbed, it's a considerable amount of driver work because they have to use tarps and make sure that the load is secured properly. Now, the next thing is liability and risk. For the dry van, the cargo is a lower value. The trailer also provides protection from weather because it's literally a box on wheels. For a reefer, it's a refrigerator on wheels, so it does protect the the cargo as well. However, the value of the cargo is usually high, and the driver has to babysit the load to make sure the temperature is okay so that the product inside the trailer does not go bad. Now, for a flatbed, the biggest risk is the cargo securement, and it's up to the driver to secure the load properly to avoid any accidents. Now, the next thing I wanted to show you is fuel. This is obvious. Fuel for a dry van and for a flatbed, you only have to refuel your truck. But for the reefer, you have to keep in mind that the reefer unit also operates on diesel. Now, in terms of loading and unloading, dry van and flatbed are the most efficient because loading and unloading happens very fast. Facilities will usually accept you early, and appointments are more suggestions than strict appointments. For reefers, the loading and unloading is extremely slow, and appointment times are mostly strict. So the efficiency in terms of actually picking up and delivering loads is of course better for the dry van and for the flatbed. Okay, now let's look at the current data as of January 2022 until September 2022. The orange lines are the dry van, reefer is blue, flatbed is green. And this is the average rate per mile with no deadhead. So as you can see, flatbed has been outperforming all equipment types since around April. April is when flatbed kind of became the equipment of choice. Before that, it was reefer. Now, currently, let's look at this. You can see that the flatbed rates have been slowly going down, and they're pretty close to what a reefer averages on the spot market right now. But something you have to remember is that the reefer, number one, has strict appointment times. Number two, it has that reefer unit that has to be refueled. So the efficiency and the cost is kind of worse for the reefer than for the flatbed. Now, that rate per mile chart was great, but what I really wanted to show you is this chart right here, which is the percent change from previous month. And yes, I actually went through everything and calculated it. Something to note, okay? I don't know if you can see it, but right here you will see these are negative numbers. So this is a negative percent change. This is how much rates fell. These are positive numbers, how much rates increased. Again, orange is dry van, blue is reefer, green is flatbed. So what you can see is from January, rates started going down for reefers and dry vans. In April, right here, the load rates went down over 7%, both for dry vans and reefers. Now, during this time, the flatbed spot market rates were growing, and actually in March, it grew over 7%. In April, it grew a little bit less than 1%. And then in June, flatbed spot rates started going down. In August, they actually fell over 7%. But in general, what I want to show you is the percent change from January to September. So from the beginning of the year until September 30th. So what you will see here is the spot rates for the dry van, which is the first graph, fell 23.01% since the beginning of the year. Reefer spot rates fell 22.94% since the beginning of the year. Flatbeds fell only 6.53% since the beginning of the year. So you can see the difference here. The reefers and dry vans kind of plummeted down, but since June of 2022, flatbeds started getting wobbly as well. Now I want to look at historical data. I know it's extremely blurry. I took a screenshot. Unfortunately, it uploaded all wonky. This is where we are right here. This is for the dry van. And this is the rate per mile. And if you can see this, it's from $1.25 to $3 per mile. The purple line is the current year, 2022. 2021 is red, 2020 is orange, and then all of these years, 2019, 2018, 2017, you can see them on the chart. So historically speaking, dry vans towards the end of the year, they do experience a small bump in rates. Now, another thing you see is that in May, around May, dry vans are not performing as well. So this is the historical data. So if we follow it, we can predict that dry vans will experience some kind of peak towards the end of the year, or so we hope. Now let's look at reefers. Same principle, 2022 is the purple line, 2021 is the red one, and so on and so forth. And this goes from $1.50 per mile all the way to $3.50 per mile. So historically speaking, again, towards the end of the year, you can see right here, there is a little upward trend in spot market rates, and this is because of the holiday season. There is also usually a peak somewhere in July because of the produce season, and there was in this year as well, but it was just not felt as much. The dips usually happen right here in January and February, and sometimes in March as well. If you can see, there are big dips in March. But what can we predict from this? Well, we can predict that this line will have a small jump, something like this, and then maybe a small jump towards the end of the year. We shall see. But one thing I want you to notice, and I'm going to delete all of these doodles right here. One thing I want you to really pay attention to. Look at the reefer spot rates right now. They're actually, of course, they're lower than 2021 because 2021 was a crazy year, but they're actually higher than most of 2018, pretty much most of 2020, all of 2019, and all of 2017. Finally, let's look at flatbeds. So here is our flatbed market. So as you can see, towards the end of the year, flatbeds perform pretty well. They also perform well in summer months right here. And this is because construction is at full swing. Now you can see the flatbed rates have been going down, but there was a little jump right here, which is great. So what we can predict from here is that there is going to be kind of maybe a leveling off, maybe going down a little bit, but there is going to be a little jump at the end of the year because of the holiday season. It's not going to be as big of a jump as in previous years, but there will be a small jump. And starting in the warmer months of 2023, flatbeds are going to perform better again. In the beginning, not in January, but in the beginning of the year, flatbeds don't do so well, but this is because of weather, and construction usually stops. Okay, now I want to mention a couple of things. I often make videos about why globally the trucking industry spot rates are going down, but I never really explained what affects specific trailers. Globally, there is an oversaturation of equipment on the market, which will make the rates go down, supply and demand. But there are other factors that play into this as well. For dry vans that transport a ton of retail goods, the rates are down because of two main factors. First, people are not buying as much because of inflation and the super high fuel prices, so they don't feel like they can spend money on unnecessary stuff. Second, the retailers' inventory levels are sky high, so they're not placing as many orders with shippers, and these orders are usually transported by dry vans. Basically, not a ton of freight, but a ton of available trucks to transport whatever is left on the market. For reefers, it's a little bit different. The inventory levels do not play as much of a part. Why? Because reefers transport perishable goods, and that kind of inventory cannot be kept for long periods of time. It spoils. So what? Did everyone just go on a diet? Well, no, but for example, during the usually crazy produce season for reefers, there was not enough produce to go around, and this was partially due to drought and partially due to weather. Another thing you have to keep in mind, and I know this will not be a popular opinion, but this is a fact. Reefer spot rates are actually higher than most of 2020 and 2019, as well as 2018 and 17. The reason we don't see it or feel it is because the more or less normal reefer rates are offset by the horrific expenses such as fuel. Now for flatbeds. As I always say, I'm not very familiar with this equipment type, but I am looking to potentially add it to our fleet. So of course I had to do a ton of research. So flatbed rates were pretty much amazing this year, but they did start dropping down as of June 2022. Now something to note is one of the biggest things that impacts flatbed rates is the housing market, because flatbeds are the primary mode of transportation for those construction materials. The key is to look at how many housing starts are happening month over month to see how many builders will be in need of construction materials to actually build. And the second thing to look at is how many permits are obtained month over month to see how many future construction projects there are. So let's quickly go back to the board. As I just said, the flatbed market strongly relies on the housing market, specifically on the house starts, how many projects are starting, and also how many permits are being obtained for future construction projects. That will give you an idea of what to expect in the future. So here is a chart from tradingeconomics.com, the US Census Bureau, and this is from October 2021 to October 2022. There's the projection line, and these are the actual numbers. So in April, there was a huge boom in housing starts. There were a ton of construction projects happening. In July, it fell off, but in August it went up again. Now the trend line is showing us that construction is slowing down, but this might be because of the colder months. Although something I want you to keep in mind is that the housing market will be slowing down, particularly because of the crazy interest rates. Anyway, that's a topic for a different video. Let's go ahead and look at the permits. As you can see, there were a ton of permits obtained in December of 2021. There were a ton of permits obtained in March of 2021. And then it kind of fell off. In August, it fell down. So the fact that in August there were not as many permits obtained for construction means that in the following months, there's not going to be as much construction. Does that make sense? I hope it does. And if there is not as much construction happening, flatbeds might have less loads that are construction related to transport. So these are all the numbers I'm taking into consideration right now while I'm thinking about getting a flatbed. So what's the verdict? Well, for a fact, I know that we are not going to be getting a dry van, even though the prices are the lowest for a dry van. So are the rates, and historically dry vans have the lowest spot market rates. So now I'm stuck between a reefer and a flatbed. Now on one hand, the cost of a reefer is astronomical right now, so I can't justify that. Plus, the cost per mile for a reefer is also higher because of that extra fuel you have to put into the reefer unit. On the other hand, reefers are pretty much always in demand because everyone needs to eat and everyone needs medicine. Plus, historically speaking, reefer rates are some of the highest on the spot market. But again, going to the cons, reefers are the most inefficient equipment type because appointment times are strict and loading and unloading is very long and can cost you a day. So now flatbed. Flatbeds are not as expensive as reefers. And while right now they are outperforming reefers, realistically the housing market will start cooling down. But historically speaking, flatbeds are in the middle between a dry van and a reefer. But they have the efficiency of a dry van because of no set appointment times and quick loading and unloading. So you can make money on the quantity of loads you do. Basically, with a reefer, you're wasting a ton of valuable drive time at the loading docks. Whereas with a flatbed, just like a dry van, you do not waste that much time, although there is time wasted on tarping from what I understand. Again, it's really a toss-up. For now, I'm leaning more towards the flatbed just because of the efficiency and because historically speaking, it outperforms the dry van. Efficiency plus better than dry van rates is a good mix for me. Plus the equipment is not as expensive as for a reefer. Anyway, I think this video has been long enough. I hope it was helpful to you guys. I hope it will help you decide what kind of equipment to buy in this market. And I'll see you guys in the next video.